Money is the language that almost everyone speaks. Everyone except people who are deeply embedded and committed to their values. Other than that, money is almost always the bottom line. Universities they have no backbone, as the last 18 months have demonstrated. And whoever is the loudest voice is who they are going to listen to, or whoever is going to cost them more. And that's the reason why the withholding of federal funding to Ivy League schools is very, very important now in order to get the rein in these schools from passively standing by while anti-Semitism is running rampant. And this report actually demonstrates that this is becoming very effective for these schools to actually step up and do something about the hate that they supposedly denounce.
And the crackdown against anti-Semitism on campuses continues. Brown University is now facing a pause in federal funding. The Trump administration now planning to halt more than $500 million in grants and contracts for the Ivy League school. Here with us now is Douglas Murray. He is a New York Post contributor and author of a new book that is out tomorrow. It's called On Democracies and Death Cults, Israel and the Future of Civilization. And I spent some time listening to some pre-interviews that you have done. And I felt like your book is kind of perfect timing for this moment, because we're not just talking about this problem in Israel. We're talking also about this problem, not of so much violence, but in terms of the radicalism on campus. And here are 5 of the universities that are facing some of these pauses in federal funding: Columbia, Penn, Harvard, Princeton, and now Brown. More to come?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, first of all, what I've tried to do in my book is explain, first of all, what happened on October the 7th, 2023. I went there straight away and reported firsthand from the war. But all the time I was covering the war in Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, I always had this thing of like, why back home in America have so many people sided with the death cult? Why have so many people, when Israeli women have been raped, decided to side with the rapists? Why have so many people decided to side with the terrorist group, Hamas? And this is one of the questions I ask, and I think I try to answer in the book. And one of the epicenters of this has been American college campuses. These are people who are the contemporaries of people like the people who were dancing at the Nova Party in the early hours of the morning on October the 7th, when the terrorists came in and massacred them. But instead of having sympathy with their contemporaries in Israel, they decided from the 7th itself, on campuses like Columbia and elsewhere, to side with the killers, to side with the death cults. I think it is absolutely right that federal funding is removed from universities that allowed this. And just to do a counterfactual, can you imagine if any other minority was treated as Jewish students have been treated on some of these campuses? If black Americans had been chased across campuses in the US, threatened with lynching, we would all come out, we'd all be on their side and say, how dare you do this to our brothers and sisters, our fellow citizens? But here, when it happened to Jewish students, and when groups like the group at Columbia, who not just hounded Jewish students and disrupted classes for others, but announced that they wanted the total destruction of Western civilization, why did the universities not say, hey, something's going wrong here? You would have thought that would be a wake-up.
Adding to that, Mahmoud Khalil has been allowed to dictate this op-ed for the Columbia newspaper from ICE detention, and he took to it to slam the university as an institute that laid the groundwork for his abduction. To Columbia, an institution that laid the groundwork for my abduction, and to its student body, who must not abdicate their responsibility to resist repression. Columbia has suppressed student dissent under the auspices of combating anti-Semitism.
Yeah, he's trying to pretend, surprisingly enough, this radical is trying to pretend that Columbia is some kind of far-right organization or something. It's preposterous. I'm extremely concerned about the fact that this guy, who has been in America on a green card, has been advocating for and calling for the total destruction of Western civilization, leading protests where Jewish students get attacked, leading protests where there's violence on campus, where campus staff get injured, where they smash up buildings. This guy is now becoming a free speech martyr to people. He's a 30-year-old living on student accommodation at Columbia. What's that about, by the way? And I don't know, maybe he's learning that you shouldn't come to America and advocate for the overthrow of this civilization without consequence. But the thing that really concerns me, and a point I've tried to make a few times, in fact, I went to speak at Columbia on Friday, and it was wonderful to see the good students, you know, because there are always good students among this matter, but really in the intelligent ones. I said to them, you know, I want to hear people saying the name of this guy, Mahmoud Khalil, if they have spent the last 18 months talking about Eden Alexander, a 21-year-old from New Jersey who has been held, actually kidnapped, actually abducted, actually tortured, and held in a Hamas dungeon in Gaza for the last 18 months. And if these people who suddenly said, oh, free Mahmoud Khalil and all this sort of thing, if they've been talking about the abducted 21-year-old Eden Alexander from New Jersey for the last 18 months, then I'm willing to hear them talk about this Khalil guy. But if they've ignored the American hostages in Gaza who are still being held, and then go on this big rant that this guy Khalil is our great test for free speech, I don't really want to listen to that.
So Benjamin Netanyahu is going to come visit with the president today. They'll have a press conference at 2:30. One of the parts of the discussion will be about tariffs, but setting that aside, your book is On Democracies and Death Cults, Israel and the Future of Civilization. How important are these meetings that Netanyahu is having now that the Biden administration is in the back?
I'm hoping that, I mean, there's some kind of move forward towards a resolution of the conflict. But as I say in the book, there's been endless cycles of this conflict between the Hamas and the Israelis, because the Israelis have never been allowed to destroy Hamas. You know, the Obama administration during the 2014 war, the Biden administration for most of this war, they wanted Israel effectively to come to a ceasefire, whatever the terms, just stop the war. My view is that if a terrorist group has been elected to power, has misgoverned the Gaza for 16, 18 years, has taught their young people to annihilate and slaughter and commit genocide on their neighbors, the state of Israel. If you've been told that you can store rockets in your homes and educate the next generation into hatred, and then you start war after war after war, the thing to call for is not ceasefire. It is the destruction of Hamas, the release of all the hostages and the destruction of Hamas. It is impossible for any civilized society, whether it's Israel, America, anywhere else, to live alongside a death cult that calls for your total annihilation. That death cult has to be destroyed, whether it's in America or in Israel, and I hope it is.
Love your approach of going to the regions that you are reporting on and coming back and telling us all about it. Thank you so much. Congrats on the book.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
Have you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to
subscribe. And very clear, and just won't accept the idea that people are supporting a terrorist organization. Every single one of us needs to be that voice to amplify what Douglas Murray says, so that the world actually gets back to its some stable place of morality.